So we now have all the pieces of the cardigan ready to stitch before I can put the neck and the bands on. And I've done one shoulder before I do the neckband. I've stitched that and I've just done a back stitch. And I think I have lost a couple of stitches off here. I'll have to pick them up, and probably that one needs knitted. Got a bit close to the edge of the thing, so I'll have to put that stitch right. But you can see I've just back stitched that seam. And I'm going to do the same with this seam here. I've already pinned it. And I've picked up the stitches. I've got the stitches as close as I can to the last stitch on the holder here, so you don't have a big large stitch when you come to pick the stitches up. And to back stitch where the wool comes out, you just go behind and come out in front of that stitch like that. I'll blow that up so you can see better. Oh, it's up there. I can't see it. I couldn't see the letter for the same colour as my lace thing on my table. So you see, we went in behind the stitch there and we've come out in front. And it makes all the difference if you have this is actually a yarn needle for sewing. You can see it's got quite a large head for threading I don't know if you can see it there, threading the wool through. There's a lady sent this to me on my other channel, Sheila's Knitting Tips and Other Stuff, a lady called Sue. And it was the best thing anyone could ever have sent to me. All my other needles seem to be blunt, and I have a lot of trouble sometimes pushing them through, but this one is like going through butter. It just goes through, no trouble at all. And that is back stitch. Go in behind your stitch and come out in the front. Go behind and come out in the front like that. And each time you pull the stitch through, give a little tug on there so your sewing doesn't gather. So it's in and out and tug. In, out and tug. And that's how you do back stitch. And don't forget to give that little tug after each stitch, because you don't want the stitches, the seam to be gathered, which can be if you don't give that little bit tug afterwards. There. Go in, out and tug. In, out and tug. And that's all there is to back stitch, and I'm going to stitch along to the end and I'll come back when I finish that. I'm now at the end of the seam, so I'm going to turn it over, and to finish off I'm going to go through the stitches that I've been working on and just a slight little loop and pull your needle through to fasten off. Again, and you do that 3 times to fasten off, and there's no way that stitching will come out. And then just cut off your, so that's 2 seams I have done now. Oh, and I have lost more stitches on that stitch holder. Mustn't have been big enough. I'm going to have to go and pick those stitches up and work them back in again before I can pick up the neckband. Right, I'm going to pick up the... I've dropped a stitch again there. I put a thing on the end there, but there was a stitch I'd already dropped off. I keep losing stitches on the end of there. I'll have to pick that up first now. There, I don't know how many times those stitches have come off the end of that stitch holder. But I've put a little clip thing on to stop them going any further. And now I will pick up the stitches for the neck, and I'm not absolutely certain how many stitches I'm picking up until I start picking them up, so I'll tell you as I do it. So I'm going to start with this is the right front. I had to face it to see which side it was on. Yes, it's the right front. That's one. We're going through these cast off stitches all the way through the whole V, as you can see, like that on the stitch. So that's one, two, three, four, 5, 6, it's that one, 7, 11. That's cast off, that's 11. And there's a little hole there, so I'm going to miss that one and go on to the next one. That's 12. Anywhere you see a hole like that, go into the stitch below. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, that's 15. 9, 30. And 1 in the middle of where we joined the shoulders. So that's 31 stitches. 31 stitches I've picked up on the left, and the right front, sorry, the right front. And I'm going to pick up I think there's 38 stitches, but I'm going to have to put these onto another needle because I don't know whether I can turn this around the right way. No, I can't. I'm going to have to put this onto another needle because the point for taking the stitches off is facing the wrong way. I pause that while I do. So now I'm going to take the 38 stitches, that was the back of the neck. So when I pick the stitches up on the back, I'm going to pick them up in the stitch that they would have been knitted in. So the first 2 stitches are knit. and then it's 2 purl, and then 2 knit and 2 purl, and that is the way I'm going across because I'm just carrying on with the pattern. And I'm coming to the last few stitches here. So that's the stitches for the neckband. And now I'm going to pick up the 31 stitches on the left front. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 'So we now have 100 stitches, and we're going to work a knit 1, purl 1 rib, twisted rib. But first, the first row we do is a knit row. So you're going to knit just across all these stitches. And now I'll be back when I've done that row. So that is the first row, and as you can see, knitting that first row gives you a garter edge all the way across here, which sort of separates the cardigan from the band. So you can see where the actual knitting part of the front and the back knot finishes and the neckband starts. So I'm now going to knit in 1 by 1 twisted rib. So I'm going to knit into the back of the knit stitch like we did with the bands, an ordinary purl, knitting into the back of the knit stitch. And I'm going to do that for about 10 rows, but I will come back when I've done that many just to make sure that the length is right. Well, I have knitted 8 rows instead of 10, and I think 8 is quite enough for the neckband. So I'm going to cast off these stitches, and I forgot to say when I started this that I'm using 325mm needles. So I'm going to cast off quite loosely because you don't want it tight around the neck. So we're going to cast off in twisted rib, the same as what I've been knitting in. And I've knitted the first 2 stitches and take the first stitch over the second stitch. And carry on like that. Oops, that one's come off the needle. And don't pull the stitch tight after you take it over. Just leave it as it is. That's casting off loosely. If you pull the stitch tight, you'll make there won't be any give in the neckband. And that is how we're going to cast the stitches off right up to the end of the row. And I'm on to the last 3 stitches to cast off. And that is the neckband finished. See, fold it. It's a bit hard to get it spread out on my table here. And then import that, bearing in mind it has to have the bands on the front yet. And as you can see, there are some give in the neckband. It's not tight all the way around. So that is how the neckline is looking. And the next part, I would probably do the bands first, because there's a lot of cardigan to have sort of keep lifting up and that when I'm doing if I sew the sleeves in and that. I'll probably put the sleeves in after I do the bands and then sew up the whole rest of the cardigan. So that is it for now. I will be back when I start doing the bands.